What's up, everybody? This week we take a look at the movie that started the slow death of a major movie saga, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. That and a whole lot more is to come, because maybe this is pod racing. Welcome to the show. So let me ask you a question. Has any movie that you liked ever been destroyed by a really bad character?
Yes, quite a few.
Anakin Skywalker. What a horrible character he was eventually. But anyway, so welcome, guys. How's everybody doing? I hope you are well with us on this fantastic Saturday, the 10th of November. Where have we been? Almost dying, I think, is probably the best way to do it. Between the two of us, we had strep throat, sinus infections, chest infections, and stomach flu. And we were going to record 2 more episodes of Harry Potter. And unfortunately, because of that, schedules and promises I've made to other folks, we're not going to be able to get to that on the main podcast. The good news is we're going to go ahead and release them as a Right Here, Right Now episode. And we're going to do actually the whole 7-book series eventually. Stay tuned for that. We'll plan it, and yeah. So I know Sarah hasn't agreed to that yet, but
lovely. Let me just put that on my calendar.
Yeah, because you've got nothing else to do.
Oh no, nothing at all.
No, nothing. But we'll probably splice that out, and we'll probably do that over in the next couple of months. And I want to thank everybody for their patience with us, because like I said, this, with the 8,000 people that live in our house, if one gets sick.
Yes, you teach your children to share, but you don't really want them to share all the germs that they bring home. There's some things that it's okay, kids, to keep to yourselves. But yeah, no, that we've been passing around illness like it's a ball at on the playground. So.
And it's been a very, very, very good ball too. Luckily we're all better now. We're all or at least well
part, yes, we're functioning on some levels, so that's good.
That is good. Now the reason this is going to sound a little weird to everybody today. You have Sarah with us this morning, as you can hear, and Sarah is not actually our guest today. I just needed somebody to help me get the introduction and closing out the way like I usually do.
He gets tired of talking to himself.
Yeah, I tried doing this as a monologue, but then it just turned into a rant. So,
right.
I think I've learned my lesson in doing solo episodes. They just turn into rants. So I'm not going to be doing them anymore. But I've got Sarah with me today, and as you can hear, we're not in the same room because we're experimenting with new software, and that's going to fulfill one of the promises that we have on our future Patreon page.
Yes.
So, what is happening with that? Again, like with everything else, we've just been delayed because of everything. And I think that's the theme of the year. All the good intentions that we've had, we get delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed.
Yeah, 2018 is the year of hurry up and wait. So.
Yeah, and now we're starting to hurry up because it's the end of the year. We can't wait.
Right.
Right. So I'm talking about something that is time sensitive. This year I am participating in the Movember charity drive.
Yes.
And the reason we haven't told anybody about this because this is the first time we've spoken to anybody this November.
Right.
But we are planning to raise something. I'm working at this from 2 angles. My 8 to 5, we've got something going on. And through this too, I'm going to post a link in the description of the podcast. So if you are interested in, taking part or, joining in or whatever, click the link. Men's mental health is very important to me.
Yes.
Not only mental health, but physical health too.
Right, definitely.
So lads, if you were listening out there, make sure that
take care of yourself.
Yeah, make sure that everything is cool upstairs, and every now and then check downstairs. Make sure everything's all right. Because
checkups.
Yeah, because bollock cancer is horrible. I guess that's the male equivalent, I guess you could say, of of breast cancer drives is the ball cancer drives.
Right.
But yeah, we want to get rid of this horrible, horrible illness from the world, and every little helps. So even if it's only like a couple of bucks, throw some cash in, help me out. One of the other things that we're trying to do as well is that we're trying to broaden our platforms.
Yes.
Sarah reminded me that there's a thing called iHeartRadio.
There definitely is, yes.
So we're looking at, we've submitted the podcast to there. We're going to hear from them in however long it takes to get to it. And we're going to look at Stitcher Radio. For all you Google listeners, guys, I can't do anything about it. I've done everything that I can to try and get this podcast available on Google Podcasts, Google Play, and for some reason, it's
They
just
don't
not
like
working.
him.
No.
He's foreign.
No, we're trying. We're trying. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep posting everything on YouTube, and for now, that's going to have to be the best substitute surrogate for it. In fact, that's going to be my next weekend project, getting everything up to date on YouTube.
Right. And in the interim, I mean, if you also have another podcast platform other than any of the ones that we've listed that you that is your preferred mode of choice for listening to whatever you choose to listen to, let us know so that way we can get hooked up there as well.
Yeah, and we want to be everywhere, and we want to grow our audience like every good show does. One other thing too, I mentioned our Patreon page that is coming very, very soon, as well as our store that is also coming soon. Probably we're going to delay the launch of both of those until the beginning of the new year. That way we can get everything all hooked up and get around all the legalities and everything like that we need to. But guys, if you are on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, look up Because Maybe Pod. And if you're on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, as well as the Podbean, look up Because Maybe Podcast. That's where you'll find us. Of course, if you're listening to this, you already know all that, but you can tell a friend who can tell two friends and so on and so forth.
Yes.
So, with that in mind, I'm joined by Star Wars fan Luke Elden as we go ahead and talk about Episode 1, what I consider the black sheep and the bastard child of the original Star Wars trilogy. Sarah, you going to stick around? We're going to talk to you afterwards?
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to go ahead, and I've got I'm going to go ahead with Luke, and we'll be back in a few minutes.
Sounds like a plan. Later.
There's always a bigger fish.
My parts are showing.
Now this is pod racing. I saw your laser sword. Only Jedis carry that kind of weapon.
Perhaps I killed a Jedi and took it from him.
I don't think so. No one can kill a Jedi. I'm a person, and my name is Anakin.
I beg your pardon. What do you mean, naked?
Review Corner.
All right, guys, we are going to go ahead and take a look at the what should be the first part of the story in Star Wars. And yes, that was done in the 90s. Very, very good. Very, very, that's the reason why we're doing it right now. And I am joined by a huge Star Wars fan and friend of the show, Luke. Luke, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, not a problem, man. Not a problem at all. Yeah, Star Wars Episode 1. What? Black sheep of the franchise?
I mean, I would say so, yes. I'm not the biggest fan of Episode 1. It's a toss-up between Episode 1 and Episode 2 for the worst for me.
I see. Episode 2 was pretty bad. Definitely pretty bad. I'm one of the like I said when we were talking the other day. I'm one of the 12 people who likes this. So just trying to make sure that everything is. It was a hard thing to do, to come back to a series that big after so long. And especially going to the beginning of how it all started, I think it was a good start, at least, anyway. But yeah, Episode 2 is great.
I mean, Episode 2 is horrendous. I can't even watch it, but I managed to watch Episode 1 again. But I remember, granted, I was only 8 when it came out, but looking back through history, through the internet, how well received it actually was when it first came out.
Yeah, that was a strange thing. It's now considered a joke, but I mean, everybody loved it when it first came out. I say loved it. They at least, I think everybody overlooked the fact that it wasn't a great movie because it was Star Wars. And I think now with the new Star Wars, they're over-analyzing it because of the prequel trilogy.
Yeah, no, I agree that it's definitely since the prequels have had time to simmer, I guess, over the years, it's definitely become a burden now when people look back, because they don't look back with fond memories.
No, it's especially with something as beloved as Star Wars. I mean, it's for me, I don't understand where the hate comes from, and I guess it's because probably because of Jar Jar.
Oh yeah, I mean, when I watched it back again this week, oh my days, I forgot how annoying that character was.
Oh my word, he's dreadful. No, well,
He is.
was he that? Yes, he was that bad. And not just him, but the whole race of Gungans too.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I know Star Wars is always intentionally made for children.
Yeah,
But this just felt too childish, I think.
Yeah, I think not even too childish. I mean, it was horrible. Brian Blessed for a start. They used him, and he wasn't loud enough. And they just. I don't get it. I really don't. I understand using them in the future episodes. They calmed him down and used him as more serious and naive as opposed to the comic relief. But man, it was dreadful. So, guys, in case you haven't noticed, we are talking about Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. It's basically Star Wars. It was written and directed by George Lucas, produced by Lucasfilm and distributed by 20th Century Fox. Released May 19th, 1999. Any wrestling fans know that's a horrible date to begin with. The box office was $1.027 billion. Now that right there says it's a success.
Yeah, I think the money talks.
Money, yeah, definitely. It made a profit of $912 million. I think that's the largest profit of any movie ever, I think, at this point, or at least up until then.
Wow.
And then
that's definitely a success in the studio's eyes, I'm sure.
Oh, definitely. And not only that, you had like all the tie-ins, all the games, all the toys. I mean, they made their money back. And
I actually loved the game. I loved the Phantom Menace game as a kid.
Oh yeah, it was brilliant. It was a really, and not just the Phantom Menace game. A couple of years ago, they released Lego Star Wars.
Yeah, I played some of them. Yeah, I enjoyed them too.
Yeah, I mean, it actually makes the story better by taking all the dialogue out of it. And that's the thing. It's George Lucas is a scriptwriter. Is not a great scriptwriter, is he?
No, I mean, it doesn't come across on film as such. No.
No, I mean, he can write a good story, but he can't write words for anything. I mean, like we mentioned episode 2 just a minute ago, that love scene, that love storyline. Yeah, that was so forced.
Yeah, it's so painful to even think about that episode. I want to wipe it from my memory.
What they needed to have done is, I don't know, I'm going off on a tangent slightly. There was a book that was released that was set in between episodes 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
So wipe episode 2 and put that book as the film. It was called The Labyrinth of Evil. And it was a really, really good read, and you read and think, man, that would be, it'd be a great thing to put on screen, but then you realize that George Lucas would mess it up talking about midichlorians and younglings and,
Oh, yeah, he went off on a bit of a tangent with that one.
One of the good things, though, I mean, I've cracked on Lucas's script writing, but his storytelling is good in the sense that this movie has got 5 major plot points going on at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It's got the Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn stuff. It's got the Padme versus the Trade Federation, Anakin's training, Palpatine's rise, and the Return of the Sith. And all of those are basically will culminate in Revenge of the Sith.
Yes.
And, I think on the one hand, like I said, script writing is awful, but the way he weaved those stories together, I think was good. I think he deserves credit for that.
Yeah, no, I'd go along with that. I mean, it's actually, when I think about the story as a whole, and I don't actually think about some of the episodes that told the story on screen, it's a really interesting story of the arc of, how Palpatine rose to power, how Anakin eventually turned to the dark side. I really like the arc of, obviously, Anakin into Vader. I mean, Darth Vader is probably the coolest villain of all time, arguably. Well, for me, he is. So I did love his storytelling, but the way it translated onto screen in episode 1 and 2, obviously, I wasn't that much of a fan. But I actually enjoyed episode 3.
Yeah, I actually thought episode 3 was easily the best of the prequel trilogies, and in my opinion, it was better than Return of the Jedi.
Oh, really? Oh, Return of the Jedi is my favorite.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, not to say that it's bad. I mean, the thing is, the original 3 movies, I still think are 3 of the best movies ever written, and to say that the episode 6 is part of that, I think is a really, really good thing for Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, I mean, I do like Revenge of the Sith. That's easily way head and shoulders above the other prequels. But yeah, Return of the Jedi was always my favorite, then Empire. I'm a bit different to most people because most people tend to enjoy Empire the most. Empire
was what got me hooked on the series.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw the first one, I thought, okay, it's a little cheesy, good guys win, and then when I saw Empire, it was, the good guys still win, but at a cost.
Yeah.
And then with Return of the Jedi, Ewoks.
Wow, yeah. Ewoks and Gungans, eh?
Yeah, Ewoks and... right, you know what? If anybody has an idea of what to do to get rid of those 2, please let George Lucas know. Don't send him any threatening mail or anything like that. It'll come back to me. But no, I like the way that, like I said, I like the way the storytelling kind of weaved its way in there and kind of, all culminated and all kind of wrapped up.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that I don't like about this movie, aside from the bad script and the Gungans, was the wasted potential that a lot of the characters had. Qui-Gon Jinn and Darth Maul, they could have stretched that out through the whole series.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember when I was younger, I used to really like Qui-Gon as a character, and I always remember being very disappointed that they obviously killed him off at the end. And then Darth Maul became one of the fan favorites due to just being such a mysterious character that we didn't really get fleshed out.
Yeah.
And then obviously he ended up coming back in Clone Wars, was it?
I think so.
Or was it Rebels? I think it might have been Rebels.
I think so.
But yeah, that Darth Maul, I think fans were obviously disappointed when looking back because that character definitely should have been fleshed out a bit more because he was one of the best characters in episode 1, if not the best.
Well, see, here's my thing. I'll go as far as to say, because look, Darth Vader was the coolest bad guy in the history of Star Wars, right? He was, he had the aura about him. But I think Maul could have taken him.
Oh, really?
I think before Anakin goes into the lava pit and burns, loses his arms and legs and gets all burned, Anakin Skywalker v Darth Maul at their peak force power. I think Maul could take him.
Really? See, I think I don't know. I think Anakin might take it at his peak with the way it's scripted anyway. He's meant to be the chosen one, but
true. And I guess the reason behind that is looking back at the Darth Maul character through like the expanded books and everything like that. He was, he was bred with hate, whereas Anakin learned to hate. So hate versus, or is it they say over here? Never argue with an idiot because they'll bring you down to their level. If you're only half as hateful as the hateful guy you're trying to out-hate, they're going to beat you every time. So, I mean, but then again, that would be, that's something for video game designers to take care of, just give us some Star Wars, fighting.
It definitely would have been an interesting duel.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely one I'd love to have seen on screen as well.
So,
I remember when I think back as well, on the first time that Darth Maul revealed the double-bladed lightsaber.
Oh, yes.
What a cool moment that was. Like
when I was in the cinema watching it, and like that got a cheer.
Yeah.
It's just like wow, it was there. who's in this movie, right? Let's look at who's in this movie real quick. You had Liam Neeson. He was a big name, but he wasn't as big as he is now back then.
Mm-hmm.
You had Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I think he nailed the Alec Guinness portion of what he wanted to do perfectly.
Yeah, I thought Ewan McGregor was probably the best thing about the prequel trilogy. In this film, though, watching it back, he didn't have too much to do.
No, he was the spare part.
Yeah, pretty much he was. Yeah.
But I think that was by design by Lucas. Not necessarily like he wrote the script and his part got cut. I think it was legitimate. Let's focus on Qui-Gon and give a little more depth to the Obi-Wan character.
Yeah, that that was definitely probably his thinking behind it, but yeah, it was just disappointing when I watched it back, because I haven't watched episode 1 for a while, actually, because every time I think about starting doing a run through of Star Wars, I can't bring myself to watch the first 2, so I just start from episode 3. But yeah, when I watched it back, I was a bit disappointed at how underutilized he was.
I think part of it too, it helped actually flesh the character out a little bit more, because like in the main series, Obi-Wan is wise beyond his years and perhaps the wisest Jedi who ever lived, whereas in this one he's still a rookie. He's still raw. He still doesn't know exactly what to do yet, and kind of introduce a little bit of vulnerability that kind of played out, especially in that last scene in episode 3.
Yeah, I think I just would have liked to have seen more learning curve moments for him with Qui-Gon. And
I think they could have kept Qui-Gon until Clone Wars in that regard. And then have the whole Obi-Wan learning from him, and then him dying on the battlefield or something, or in that arena. And that sets Anakin off, not just his he's lost his mother, now he's lost his mentor.
Yeah, I'd go along with that. That would have been better, I think, than what they actually chose to do.
You had Natalie Portman as Amidala, and apparently Portman was like 14 or 15 during this.
Was she really?
Yes. Oh, sorry, not Natalie Portman. Sorry, Keira Knightley was 14 or 15. My apologies, I got that one wrong. Because Keira Knightley played her bodyguard.
Yes, the decoy.
Yeah, and how they did that to the point where you couldn't tell. Because even when you see Padme was out as being Padme, as being the normal handmaiden and whatever, but there was a lot of scenes where she was in the full makeup and outfits, and and it wasn't Keira Knightley. But at that point, you know what I mean? They did a good job casting the pair of them to be each other. Yeah, I mean, I always, when I watched it back, I was looking out for it. To see where I could spot when they'd swapped and stuff. It kind of is kind of hard to tell, which is obviously good work on the wardrobe people and makeup artists. Well done to Lucas for doing that, because that was a good twist. I really thought that was a really, really good plot twist. Yeah, that was a good twist. I remember though, just quickly talking about twists. I remember watching it and I didn't know when I was a kid that Palpatine would become the Emperor. Really? Yeah, so, because I was only like 8. So when I remember just walking home with my mum, and my mum was like, we were just talking about it, and she's like, yeah, you do know who that character ends up being? I was like, no. She's like, oh, I don't know if I should tell you. And obviously as a kid, you nag. So she was just like, yeah, this is the Emperor in the original trilogy. My mind was blown. I was like, what? That's brilliant, man. That yeah, it's like somebody walking. It's Ian McDiarmid did such a good job with that. I think that he played the duplicity of the character so well. He did. I can't remember who did it. It was. Oh, hang on. It was Edgar Wright. He said that when they were writing Hot Fuzz, they looked at the cliche, the big book of cliches to put in there, and they say that if anybody is genial and helpful and humble, they usually end up being the bad guy, and he plays this perfectly. I mean,
he really does.
He's all about service. I will do this. It weighs on my heart, and in the background, he's the most evil thing in the galaxy.
Yeah, his levels of manipulation are at the top.
Oh, definitely. I think only second to Obi-Wan with the Force. You know.
Yeah.
You want to buy some death sticks? You want to rethink your life? I think I'm going to go rethink my life. The man is in this movie, Samuel L. Jackson. His character's not identified in this movie, but I think that was great casting. Because apparently Tupac was supposed to play a Jedi, and then his part was given to Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I never knew that. He was meant to be Mace Windu.
Yeah, he was apparently the Windu character was, and looking at the research, the Windu character was the original name for Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh, right.
And so he wrote the original backstory of the story of Obi-Wan of Mace Windu, and then for some reason changed it to Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then brought the name back for Samuel L. Jackson with his purple lightsaber.
Wow, I never knew stuff like that. I knew about, obviously, Luke Skywalker was going to be called Luke Starkiller.
Yes.
And then they brought in Starkiller in a game. But I didn't know that Mace Windu was actually going to be Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yep. It's a weird thing about it, you know. Looking at some of the other things here, you know, Yoda was always going to be Yoda, but, you know, Yoda was always going to be Yoda, but he wasn't going to look like the small little, you know, creature that he was. He was going to look more humanoid. Mm-hmm. And the same thing with Windu. I think the reason why he didn't give a reason why he changed the name. I think it was because Mace Windu sounds a little bit more aggressive as a name.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds weird, but I mean, you know, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ben Kenobi just seemed a little more genial. And so, you know, Mace Windu has the coolest death in the whole series, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I agree.
Really?
Personally. Yeah, just because that scene annoys me so much.
Yeah, it's
the logic behind it.
It is a horrible scene. It is. I mean, yeah, I mean, the death itself is fantastic, but everything leading up to it is not. That whole, you know, okay, we know the Emperor is a dark Sith Lord, and we know he's probably the darkest of all the Sith Lords who ever lived. But there were 5 Jedi Masters in that room.
And how quickly did they get taken down as well?
It's like red shirt equivalent, you know? And then, you know, obviously because Samuel L. Jackson, he put up a good fight, but there's a meme that's come out for the last couple of years. It's that scene where he goes, you know, he's too dangerous to be kept alive. And then it cuts to Anakin and goes, well, why don't we just cut his hands off? He can't use the Force. He can't use his lightsaber. We'll try him, and if he's guilty, we'll execute him.
Yeah, so many logical ways you can go about it.
Yeah. And then the next one's like, all right, and then roll credits, you know. But I mean,
I remember people laughing in the cinema at that scene when he, when his face goes all deformed, I guess, and shrivels up or whatever. And I just remember people laughing in the cinema, and me and my mates were there like, oh, it looks terrible.
Yeah, especially in the era of CGI that was going on around about the mid 2000s. Because I mean, like we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, Jurassic Park, you know, had great CGI, and then everything after that just looked terrible. You know, especially that horrible rubber mask. It looked like somebody just sat on him.
It actually did. It did. I mean, as well, when you think about it, that's one of my bugbears with the prequel trilogies is how heavily reliant it was on CGI. Yeah. He got George Lucas went a bit crazy with that. I think I do prefer more practical effects where you can. It just gives it a more immersive feel, I feel.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm a former film student myself, and miniatures and and puppets and painted backgrounds and stuff like that. That leads to good storytelling. It doesn't take you out of the story, but bad CGI will always be bad CGI.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it might be episode 3. Yeah, it is episode 3. After they come back from rescuing Palpatine, and Padme's waiting for him behind that pillar, and they come over, and when they were walking, the CGI, it just looked horrendous. It really winds me up. I don't know why, but it does.
It's like what was it? Fisher Price is my first CGI machine.
It is like that.
One of the things though about all of this is Lucas acted like this is what the fans wanted. More creatures, more computing, more, more. And like I said, 5 plot points going on in one movie, that was a little, that was a little too much. Because we've gone back to the originals a few times, but they had one plot point in the original Star Wars. In Empire, they had 2 plot points going on, and then by the time they got to Return of the Jedi, they had 3 or 4 going on, and now they come to the prequels, and we got 5 plot points going on, 6 plot points going on, and the CGI is not there, even though they think it is. And could that be another thing that soured a lot of people?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, sometimes more is not best.
Correct.
And when you're watching a film for 2 hours and you're just getting pulled in so many different directions, and obviously, say if 3 of the 5 don't land for you, then it's going to take you out of the film during those scenes. So I would say so, because especially when you look back to obviously the first Star Wars, the original Star Wars. I mean, their budget was not that big. They were struggling with the budget and props, things going wrong on set, but they still, with less, they managed to give more and still produce a better film than the prequels. So I think maybe he just got a bit carried away with trying to make it like this massive event of the prequels. Like, there's so much going on. It's bigger and better. It seemed to fail or fall short anyway.
Yeah, it's not. It's again, to quote Jurassic Park, it's not whether or not he could. It's whether or not he should.
Mm-hmm.
And,
exactly.
And again, look, I think this is a good movie. I really do. Like I said, I'm one of the few people who actually thinks it's a good movie. There are a lot of things in this movie that have always been part of the Star Wars universe, but they touched on it a lot more in this. Like, for example, with slavery. Anakin Skywalker, his mother, the whole planet, they still use, human servitude, and the way that they kind of worked that in was good, and it didn't spend a whole time passing the judgment that maybe it should have passed. But in the sense as you knew that it was wrong straight off the bat. They didn't have to come in there and spend 25 minutes talking about how wrong this is. They just accepted that it was wrong and just carried on as normal.
Yeah. I think with things like that, though, you probably don't need to flesh it out that it's wrong as such too much, because the audience watching will know straight away as soon as they hear the word anyway that, bad connotations. We know that this isn't right. So they're there to go along with the journey.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And it's the same thing with duplicity, too. I mean, every single character in this movie, with the exception, I think, of Obi-Wan Kenobi, eventually has something that takes them, that takes them in a different direction. I mean, we obviously know that Sidious and Palpatine are the same person. But then you've got Padme's, constant body double bait and switches. That's that to me says a lot. You have the Gungans, who only one of them is an absolute moron, whereas the rest of them are more or less a proud warrior race.
Yeah.
And then you've got this idiot representing them. I mean, even Obi-Wan Kenobi has duplicity in this movie because he comes across as peaceful and calm, and then he channels his rage to kill Maul.
Mm-hmm, he does, and he actually wins the fight from the low ground, even though Maul had the high ground.
That's right. Well, at least he kept his legs. At least.
That's true.
But the thing is, Maul underestimated his power.
He did. That fight scene, though.
That's epic.
Yeah, still to this day is epic, and with the Duel of Fates playing over it.
I've got the goosebumps right now, just thinking about it.
It's so good.
And that, I think they needed that in this. It's a 2.5 hour movie, and you've got 2 hours of politics and pod racing. Pod racing. But that last 30 minutes where you've got the infiltration, the space battle, the Jedi duel, I mean, that is what made the movie, I think. You can ignore that previous 2 hours. That last 30 minutes right there is probably some of the best sequences in the whole trilogy. Yeah,
I mean, it's for my bet, it's the best lightsaber battle or duel. And then the only thing I didn't like was Anakin in space when he's like, "Oh, I know, I'll spin." Whoa! It's like as wooden as that as well. And then he's just spinning in and manages to get inside. And,
that with all look, I'm not gonna pile on Jake Lloyd, right? Because I mean, he had a rough time after this movie.
Yeah, he really did.
And and it wasn't his fault, but Lucas wrote him some of the most ridiculously wooden lines.
Oh yeah, without doubt.
Master Qui-Gon, I heard you say midichlorians. I have always been wondering, what are midichlorians? I mean, just so forced and hammy and...
Oh, it's so bad.
It's terrible. I mean... And then you have Liam Neeson, consummate professional, making it sound like, Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And it didn't get any better with Hayden Christensen either, because he's not a great actor himself.
No, and he's fed more wooden lines. I mean, I don't like sand, stuff like that. It's like, does George Lucas not think who talks like this?
Well, the thing is, he was so rich after that first trilogy, he's probably got a bunch of yes men around him. Yeah,
that's true, actually.
Does this work? Oh, yeah, yes, perfect. Best line ever. It'll get you an Oscar. No.
Far from it.
I mean, and that, I think that is, like we touched on it, but I can't emphasize enough how awful the dialogue is in this movie, but how good the story is. Mm-hmm. I don't get it. I don't know how you can write such a good story with such bad dialogue.
I've actually watched, there's some YouTube videos that basically take little clips from the prequels and show Vader's arc and stuff like that, and Anakin's arc. And when you watch them, it's like, oh, this story is so good. It's so good. But it's just everything in between.
Yeah.
The wooden lines, and it just takes you out of it sometimes. I mean, there are good points. I mean, I know I'm coming across someone who just hates the prequels, but there are some good points in the film, and I like the episode 3, like I said before, but I don't know, there's too many bits that add up where I'm sat disappointed, I guess.
Well, that's the other thing too, it's they killed a lot of the continuity. And I don't think it was intentional, but again, I think Lucas was drunk on power and just wrote what he thought, and then tried to shoehorn the rest of it. All right. In the original trilogy, Force users were religious. It was meditative. It was more, what we would call Eastern. In terms of thing. In this, it's determined by physics. So it went from religious to science. Which is weird because Jediism and Sithism were referenced as religions, and now it's more culty with a scientific base behind it.
Yeah,
Especially with midi-chlorian. Oh God, I can't stand that word.
I can't believe they brought that in. It just wasn't needed.
No
one asked for it. No one asked for it.
How can you tell someone is strong with the Force? Because I'm one with the Force. Trust me. Not his midi-chlorian. I mean, he's not got diabetes. No. You know, you don't have to like examine him. He's just you were in tune with the Force. He's in tune with the Force. I can tell it. Bang. That's it. You've just shaved up one of the worst parts of the saga.
We'd already bought into the fact that the Force was there.
Yeah,
we bought into it in the original trilogies, and we didn't really question it too much. Well, not that I know of, anyway.
No,
and people were pretty happy with it. It's like, yeah, okay. Oh, it turns out Luke Skywalker, he is Force sensitive. Cool. I don't need that explained in midichlorians. Oh God, it's and in sci-fi movies, right? In sci-fi movies and TV, they always do something like that to explain away the physics, right? That they can't happen. I think it was Star Trek Next Generation that their transporter had the Heisenberg compensator, because according to the physicist Heisenberg, you couldn't do the teleportation that Star Trek does. So they built a device called the Heisenberg compensator, and now you accept it. But you did, but as you said, you did not need to give explanation of what the Force is. Yeah, and you really didn't.
I know in the 90s we were getting more and more information, but I mean, even then we still had our imaginations. We could, we opening the door with our mind was the idea. Now we realize that we needed, special. I don't know.
No, I mean, like you said, though, sometimes so it's given us the Force in the originals, and then your mind can wander and be like, oh yeah, maybe I wonder how they do know they're Force sensitive, or how the Force began and stuff like that. But then your imagination can take it. You don't really need answers. You can have fun with it. But then when you get an answer like that is panned across the board, it just ruins it a little bit. But then, as most people do, we try to ignore the fact that there's midichlorians.
Yeah.
Just ignore it.
Just ignore it. Midichlorians don't exist. It's just sensitivity. Other things that they did as well. This one's a nitpick of mine, but it's important, I guess, right? In the prequel trilogy, Yoda was Grand Master of the Jedi Order.
Mm-hmm.
In the original trilogy, he was just a Jedi Master or a Jedi Knight.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that might sound like something small, but I mean, how could you leave an important detail out of the original movies? Okay, Obi-Wan coming to Luke in the cave as he's as he's about to die, and saying, "You must find Yoda." Who's Yoda? Yoda is the Grand Master of the Jedi. Oh crap! Yeah, that makes him important.
Yeah.
Oh, he's just a Jedi Knight. You either keep him as a knight, or you know what I mean. He just, let's make Yoda extra important in these prequels, and let's call him the Grand Master.
It feels like everyone loves him. Let's make him the Grand Master, because everyone will believe it, because it's like, oh yeah, Yoda, yeah, he was strong with the Force. I know he was, because we spoke about it in the originals. So in the prequels, he must have pretty much led the Jedi, but there's no actual mention of it, like you said. He's just by the terms used in the original, he's just a normal ranking Jedi, really. Yeah,
and and that again, but and that's the other thing too, right? It's really, really weird. In the prequels, as we mentioned, Force is more scientific rather than religious, but the Jedi is ranked kind of religiously. You know what I mean? And so just not even acknowledging that Yoda was a Grand Master, but then shoehorning him as the Grand Master, just it's that soured me a little bit on Yoda.
Yeah, I guess it didn't sour me particularly, because Yoda, I'm not his biggest fan. I'm not saying I dislike him. I do like him, but I've never been hooked by him as such. I mean, I know plenty of my friends and family are Star Wars fans, and he was my mum's favorite character and stuff like that. But I don't know. I never had the same appeal with Yoda.
He was, for me, and I agree with you on that, Yoda's a great character, but he's like, there are so many better characters out there.
Mm-hmm.
And not that he's a bad character, it's just, I guess because he is the authoritative figure. And and in all of this, you have, the top two, the top tier guys going against the top tier guys, and Yoda only comes out, as a final resort. Whereas in the Sith side of things, Palpatine, Sidious, Dooku, they all are front and center taking on the henchmen. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm making sense. Another thing about Yoda, he didn't train Obi-Wan.
No, he didn't.
But yet, this is the Jedi Master who trained me. Why kill that continuity?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Why kill that when you're making a prequel and you've already set up quite a lot of storylines from the original? Why would you kill that? I don't really get that part.
And the other thing about you see, we've gone from Yoda, now we're going to Obi-Wan. This one bothered me the most, right? Alec Guinness was, was made to look in his mid 50s, early 60s, right?
Mm-hmm.
When Vader takes his mask off, you see a man who's in his late 50s, early 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come to this, and you've got a 21-year-old Kenobi and a 9-year-old Anakin.
Yes, that's true.
I mean, I know a lot of people go, nerd, but I mean, that's important. You can't have somebody who's an equal in terms of age in one set of movies, and then, oh, by the way, here they are. Here's Obi-Wan and his little cousin. You couldn't do that.
Yeah, there's a bit of a gulf there in age. You know what? I never even thought about that. I hadn't even put two and two together.
No, it's just I don't know why I thought of it either. It was just something. It's something that really bothered me because, in that first epic lightsaber battle in the whole series, they're equals. They've been through everything together, and then this movie says that they didn't go through everything together. In fact, that Obi-Wan went through a lot before he even knew that this planet that Vader was from existed.
Yeah.
And I know it's nitpicky, but I mean, it does kind of. You can't ignore it,
Yeah, I wonder. Say, George Lucas made the original,
right?
And say then the prequels are made this way, with some of the stories and continuity errors, but George Lucas didn't have anything to do with the project. I wonder how annoyed he'd be.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, if he's looking going, well, in my original story, I said that Yoda trained Obi-Wan, but then you've brought in this new character. I wonder if that would have annoyed him, but when it's his own, he just can't see it because he doesn't have the outside looking in approach.
Yeah. That's a great point. And I mean, again, probably he had yes men around him saying, "Hey, that's a great idea." But I mean, Lucas is the king of bastardizing his own work, though. I mean, all these DVDs and re-releases and this cut, that cut, hand shot first, hand shot second. I mean, he can't leave well enough alone.
No, I've seen the clips of him where was it Jar Jar, how he was saying how Jar Jar was the most important part of the story and stuff, but then he was watching it back and he's like, yeah, I'm not happy with that. I want to change that. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a perfectionist, and unfortunately, with a lot of perfectionists, they end up destroying their work. Mm-hmm. And that's. I mean, look, that's one of the things that I do with this and with with my 8 to 5 and everything like that. At some point, you've got to stop editing because you realize that your last edit is worse than the edit you just made. And he just. It's not like Peter Jackson with Lord of the Rings, where they had to rewrite certain elements of the script because, what they recorded yesterday now doesn't make sense. Let me tweak the script for it. Mm-hmm. He just ripped. He ripped his own
universe apart and pasted it back together just for the sake of it.
Yeah. See, that's the weirdest part. It's all his story.
Yeah.
Everything it was his idea, you know, and he had control of it, and yet he still ripped bits apart, which I don't really understand, but I mean, I guess he had his reasons.
He probably did, and he didn't even try to explain it away as like parallel universe or dimension, you know, stuff that sci-fi movies usually try and pull in. The closest equivalent, if you're not a Star Wars fan, but you're a Doctor Who fan, the closest equivalent I can give is Stephen Moffat's last series as the head writer and director of Doctor Who. You have all this continuity built up that he just ripped apart just because, you know. And my wife's a big Doctor Who fan, so you know I've watched a lot of it the last year or so. But I mean, yeah, I don't understand it. And the weird part is Spielberg let him do it.
I must admit, I'm not a Doctor Who fan, so I'm not sure about the continuity changes. But I know a lot of people who are Doctor Who fans.
Yeah.
And watch it religiously. And I have seen, you know, certain posts on social media and stuff, complaints.
Yeah.
About like the course that has gone in, and sometimes I'll see, like, I won't know characters' names, so I'm not even going to try and guess.
No.
But I'll see like, oh, such and such is it, but why is he do, you know, this happened that way, but now this is happening. It doesn't make any sense, and I'm like, oh.
I mean, like one example for me, right, for the Doctor Who thing was apparently his planet is locked in time and he can't get to it. Well, in the first episode of the last season, they not only go to it, but it's just, really? You know, we're going to blow up the Death Star. And then all of a sudden, everybody teleports to the Death Star during the middle of the battle. For the sake of it. You know, and it's just, no. It's no. But, you know what? Like I said, I like this movie. I think it's a definite solid 6 out of 10. I think the people got this one right this time. It's a solid 6 out of 10. What's your opinion on it in terms of rating?
I would probably give it maybe a 4. Yeah, I'd probably give it a 4, which might seem a little bit harsh, but the only real part that I enjoy is the lightsaber duel at the end with more Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. So I'd probably have to give it a 4, which pains me.
And I think the reason I give it a 6 is because, like I mentioned, it's the story is good, but the reason I take the points off of it is because the acting is terrible and the script is terrible.
Yeah, the acting. When I watched it back this week, there's just some parts that it's just horrible. It's just horrible. It makes me laugh. It's like when they're pod racing and it keeps cutting to the kid and the alien kid.
Yeah.
And they're like, go, Annie, go. And then at the end, when Annie wins, they start dancing and one of the kids goes to high five the other. But the other just ignores him and starts dancing. And then the kid dances, and I'm just like, oh, it's awful.
It's like Fortnite, you know, the beginning stages of it.
Yeah, it is.
One other thing, though, I will say this. They did do a lot of good special effects on that. The pod racing scene, that whole crowd was like 2 little Lego pieces, and the rest were cotton buds painted different colors.
Was it actually?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, they did do a good job then.
Yeah, and then they got the dude from Whose Lines It Anyway to do the annoying voice, but, you know. That whole bit, right? And I know it's an important part of the movie because you learn you learn who this Anakin Skywalker is and why he's important and everything like that. But, like, they shoehorned Greedo into this. They shoehorned Jabba into this. They shoehorned 3PO into this.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of, hey, look, see, it's a Star Wars movie. Here's Jabba. Why is Jabba in a different town, considering that, you know, his palace and his statue is on the different side of the planet?
Yeah, like you said, it literally has to be for, oh, look, here's someone from the originals that you like.
Yeah.
Jabba. That's it. That's the only thing I can think of.
The only one who makes sense was R2.
Yes.
Because he was in the employment of the Queen, and okay, fair enough. It's still a little just pushed in there for the sake of pushing on there, but at least it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I'll buy that part. But then, like you said, with C-3PO, well, apparently Anakin made him.
Yeah. I mean,
what?
Yeah, he made C-3PO to look just like all the other protocol droids out there.
Yeah.
That's talent.
Creative.
But the other thing too is, I mentioned slavery earlier on, and we all know that it's horrible. But how is Anakin able to have friends, family in downtown?
Yeah, I mean,
he's got enough time to build a pod. He's got enough time to build a robot. He spends his days at home. I mean,
maybe he doesn't sleep.
Yeah, that's true. If he's strong with the Force, he doesn't have to, I guess.
Because, like you said, unfortunately, slavery, horrible thing, but they people who have been through that don't tend to have as much downtime as Anakin was afforded.
He's just basically an employee who doesn't get paid,
Yeah.
Not like what his mother became, when she was kidnapped and actually beaten and on all that stuff. But I mean, I'm not saying you need to glorify slavery or anything like that. That's totally not what I'm saying. But they make you feel for Anakin until he goes home.
Yeah.
On his own free will.
It feels like a 9-to-5 job, like you said. He's on an internship.
Yes.
pod racing internship, and then back home.
Oh man, that's probably what happened to Michael Schumacher. All right, so Luke, man, it's been awesome talking to you. This movie is fantastic. We got a little bit more things to come. Open invitation for you to come back on when we do our next season in the new year. And it's been a pleasure talking to you, man.
Yeah, it's been good fun. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, once again, my sincere thanks to Luke Elden for taking the time to talk with us.
Yes.
It was great having you on, and like I said, we look forward to hearing from him in the new season coming up in the new year. Apologies for any drops in sound. We are using a new software.
Yes.
And we're actually using it, me and Sarah, right now, is because we are both really, really busy.
It's cold. I don't feel like trekking across the yard to the studio. So
it's actually quite warm out here.
I don't care. It's cold for me, and it requires full clothing, and it's Saturday, so no.
Yeah, so I'm out here freezing outside, and Sarah's nice and warm in the bed. That's fantastic. But it's also a good way to show this software off too. This, I guess, is our advertisement episode for anybody who wants to take part in the podcast who doesn't live in the local area. So, yes. Guys, we got you covered. As long as you have a microphone hooked up to a computer, like all laptops do. I think you can even do it through your cell phone. We're using the Zoom software. Don't worry, we're not sponsored by them. It's just what we use. Trust me, we're not sponsored by them because they wouldn't.
No, we're not sponsored by anybody. Yeah, no.
But, okay, next week, we are actually joined by Local. I'm actually going to be reviewing The Secret of Monkey Island.
Ooh.
Did you ever play that?
Once or twice, not enough to where I'm going to hop in on this. I'm going to let you guys, you and Dexter, handle up on this one.
Yeah, I'm going to be joined by Dexter Duran of the Holodecks. He's going to come in and talk about. We both love this game, and it's a fantastic game. If you've not played it, guys, seriously, find a copy of it. It should be on Steam. If not, find an emulator because it is absolutely. It's one of those games that's funny, serious, and quirky all at the same time.
That, and it'll be interesting to have another personality on the show from the Holodecks other than just Greg. So, and for all of our local listeners, or anyone in this region, the Holodecks are an amazing, amazing 90s tribute band, cover band.
They are. They're fantastic. You know, we work close. We work close with Greg, and Greg is fantastic. Dexter is fantastic too. We've got we actually have Ben Tyner, the holodecks, coming on later on in the season too.
Mm-hmm. And they tour all across the South.
Well, not just the South. They tour all across anywhere that can meet their fee is where they will travel. But one thing I'm going to try and do too is try to get Adam on here.
Grunge will travel.
Yeah, right. Now, one thing I'm going to do is try to get Adam from the holodecks on here as well and have the full set. But in the meantime, I'm going to have Dexter, Ben, and Greg from the holodecks all on separate weeks, and maybe one day I can convince them all to come on at the same time. I don't know.
So are the holodecks like your, chocolate frog cards?
Pretty much.
Rock on. Yes.
It's really weird, for all these years.
Are you gonna get the rest of the crew on too? Like, are we gonna get Fergie on?
I'd get Fergie on.
Okay.
Although I'd have to prepare for that one because Fergie is probably the most intelligent person I've ever met, and I'd have to keep up with him. Because I'm Mr. Kiddy over here. But holodecks love aside, they're really, really good guys, and it's good to have them on board. And I've worked with them; they've worked with us. It's been really good. We look forward to having them on board. And like Sarah said, it's also good to have another voice on here. We are trying to expand our repertoire in terms of other voices on here, because while I love having Sarah on here and I love having Greg on here, I want us to expand a little bit, because it's fun.
And it shakes it up too. And so, and that's another thing. If you are wanting to chat with us about something on the podcast, or maybe you have an idea for an episode, just hold that thought. Opportunities to do so will be making themselves known here in the near future. Yes,
they are. And in the meantime, if you have an idea, you think something that would make this show better, shoot an email. BecauseMaybePodcast@gmail.com, or look us up on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, Because Maybe Pod, and drop us a line. We reply to everything.
Yes.
The thing is, I know our Facebook page says we take a while to reply, but the only reason we do that is because there was a gentleman trying to sell us services.
Yes.
And after blocking him, he still tried to message us, and in the end, we just ignored him. So
yes,
it's
and there's only so many times I can say, "I'm sorry, sir."
Yeah.
We don't need 5,000 pillows or whatever it was he was trying to sell. I don't know. He was
trying to sell 5,000 pillows and wanting us to pay him to sponsor the show.
Yes. I think he was related to a Nigerian prince. I'm not sure.
Hey, you know what? I'm heading there next week to pick up my lottery winning. So
hey.
You know what? Before we go, let me ask you a question, right? That was a big email scam, and it still is a big email scam. Was there any mail equivalent to that over here? Aside from the AOL floppy disks?
Male equivalent, MAIL, not MALE. There was floppy disk or CDs,
or even in the newspaper magazines and stuff like that. The ads or something like that.
Well, Columbia House. You could do a whole episode on Columbia House.
I think we will next year.
Yeah, because everybody people were signing up their dogs to get 6 CDs for 1 cent each. Yeah. The whole generation of 90s kids first learned what credit meant thanks to Columbia House. Seriously. But there was that. AOL.
That will be something that we will look into, I guess. That's another thing too, guys. I'm going to announce this right now. We have Because Maybe Podcast extra episode, whatever episode the extra episodes are. Hang on one second. I will tell you exactly. We're going to have Because Maybe Podcast extra episode 7 released sometime next week, because we are going to be talking about the new season coming up.
Yes.
This season, we're going to be finishing around about the new year. And next season, we're going to be starting in the middle of January. We're going to take a couple of weeks off this time and just get right back into it. And we are going to be returning to our older, similar format, in the sense that we're not just going to be doing albums, CDs, games, music, movies, etc., etc. We are going to look at the old scenes and stuff like that again. But I want to thank everybody who has taken part in the last couple of months. And, this is, for some reason, this is a very emotional episode for me, because it's been 1 year since I posted on our Facebook page and our YouTube page the state of the mental health of myself.
Mm.
And Sarah will attest that I've come a long, long way in the last 12 months.
Yes.
So I want to thank everybody who's helped, everybody who supported us, everybody who supported me, everybody who supported Sarah, everybody who supported this podcast, everybody who supported the Holodecks, who supported Molly, who supported anybody who's had anything to do with us. From the bottom of my heart, thank you very much for everything that you get. Now, like we mentioned,
and if you were able to decode all of that, then you have been listening intently this last year.
exactly.
He went off like Roadrunner. Just
Let's slow it down to 0.75 speed to understand what we'll go.
yeah.
All right, guys, but that's it for this week. Like I said, next week we're going to be joined by Dexter Duran as we talk about The Secret of Monkey Island.
Yes.
Sarah, we're going to be talking to you in a few weeks anyway when we start doing our Christmas stuff.
Yes.
We are actually going to I'm going to do this right now. Christmas stuff this year, we're going to be reviewing 4 Christmas and New Year movies that were released in the 90s. Because Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. It's just a movie that takes place on Christmas.
Okay, so what about Nightmare Before Christmas? Although that was in the 2000s, wasn't it? Or was it in the 90s?
That is, to my mind, that's a Halloween movie. It was released around Halloween.
Oh, no, it's a bridge.
We are going to be talking about, but hold that thought. We're going to be doing The Nightmare Before Christmas. We're going to be doing Home Alone 1 and 2, The Muppet Christmas Carol, and my favorite New Year movie, because it's the only one I could find out, Rooms.
Oh, 4 Rooms, yeah.
Yes.
Did they misbehave? Yes.
They did.
Right? And how?
Yes. But on that note, guys, thanks very much for listening. We will see you next week. Sarah, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you for getting on board. And a special thanks once again to Luke for giving us some fantastic insight into Star Wars. And we will see you next week.
Bye.
You